Most people fail at their goals not because the dream itself is too large, too ambitious, or too unrealistic, but because the goal they are chasing lacks clarity, structure, and direction, while the plan behind it is either vague or entirely non-existent. People declare big ambitions like, I want to be successful, I want financial freedom, or I want to change my life, but these words are often driven more by emotion than by intention. They express desire, not direction. They create inspiration, but not implementation. Real success does not begin with passion alone. It begins with clarity of purpose, a defined destination, and a step-by-step system that bridges the gap between where a person is and where they want to go. A goal without clarity is like setting out on a journey without a map, without a destination, and without understanding what the road ahead requires. Many people chase outcomes without first understanding why they want them, what sacrifices they are willing to make, and what habits they must abandon to make room for growth. When the why behind a goal is weak, external pressure can easily destroy it. When difficulties arise, and they always do, the goal collapses under the weight of uncertainty, self-doubt, and frustration. Motivation disappears because there was never a solid foundation to sustain it. Motivation is emotional, temporary, and unpredictable. It rises when things feel exciting and fades when the journey becomes boring, repetitive, or challenging. That is why most people feel inspired on day 1, committed on day 2, and discouraged by day 10. They rely on emotional energy instead of disciplined routine. But discipline outlives motivation. Discipline shows up on the days when the mood does not. It turns effort into habit and habit into identity. Unfortunately, most people never take the time to build the habits, routines, and systems that transform desire into consistent action. They want success to be driven by feeling instead of process, which is why their goals weaken under pressure. Another major reason people fail is because they romanticize the end result but resist the reality of the journey. They want the reward without the repetition. They want transformation, but they do not want discomfort. They want speed instead of patience, shortcuts instead of perseverance. They expect instant progress and forget that real achievement is slow, cumulative, and often invisible in the beginning. They underestimate how long meaningful change takes while overestimating their willpower and consistency. They believe that one burst of inspiration can compensate for weeks of neglect, which eventually leads to disappointment when outcomes fail to match expectations. In the early stages of any goal, progress is subtle and internal. The body is adjusting, the mind is rewiring, the habits are forming, but results are rarely visible. Because many people equate success only with visible outcomes, they assume that nothing is working. Instead of trusting the process, they label themselves as failures and quit prematurely. They never give their efforts enough time to compound. Their impatience kills momentum before progress has a chance to reveal itself. The problem is not that the goal was impossible. The problem is that their tolerance for slow growth was too weak. Most people also lack a realistic action system. They state goals as wishes rather than commitments. They say, I want to be healthier instead of, I will exercise for 30 minutes every day. They say, I want to start a business instead of, I will dedicate 2 hours daily to learning, planning, and building. A real system breaks the goal into behaviors, timelines, and non-negotiable actions. It defines what must be done today, not someday. Without that system, goals remain abstract ideas floating in the imagination instead of grounded behaviors shaping daily life. People do not fail at the goal itself. They fail at the structure required to support it. There is also a psychological trap many people fall into. They mistake planning for progress. They read books, watch motivational videos, listen to success stories, and take notes, but they never convert knowledge into execution. They feel productive thinking about the goal, researching the goal, and dreaming about the goal, but they avoid confronting the real work required to achieve it. Planning becomes procrastination disguised as preparation. They live in mental rehearsal rather than physical effort and then wonder why their reality never changes. Accountability is another missing ingredient. When no one is watching, discipline becomes optional. Many people rely solely on personal willpower, assuming they can push themselves based on intention alone. But willpower weakens with fatigue, stress, and distraction. Without accountability, and whether from mentors, routines, checklists, or supportive environments, it becomes easy to rationalize excuses. Skipping one day becomes skipping 1 week, and eventually the goal quietly disappears. Accountability creates pressure, structure, and responsibility, the very elements most goals require to survive long term. People also fail because they design goals around excitement instead of sustainability. They start with unrealistic expectations, extreme diets, excessive gym routines, intense study hours, or overly aggressive productivity schedules. These plans are unsustainable because they clash with lifestyle, energy levels, and personal capacity. When they inevitably burn out, they conclude that the goal was too difficult, when in reality, the approach was simply unrealistic. Sustainable progress requires gradual effort that compounds over time, not dramatic bursts of intensity that collapse under exhaustion. Another hidden reason people fail is that they never redefine their identity to match their goal. They try to build new habits while still seeing themselves as the same person who avoids effort, procrastinates, or doubts their ability to succeed. When identity and behavior conflict, identity always wins. If someone still thinks I am lazy, I lack discipline, or I never finish anything, their mind will sabotage progress to remain consistent with that identity. Real change begins not when the goal is written down, but when the self-image evolves to support it. Clarity is what shapes identity. When a person truly understands who they want to become, why that transformation matters, and what values guide their journey, discipline becomes more natural. The problem is that many people skip this inner work. They chase external symbols of success rather than internal alignment. They borrow goals from society, comparison, or pressure rather than choosing goals that align with their deeper sense of purpose. When a goal is not personally meaningful, commitment weakens the moment difficulty appears. Environment also influences success far more than many people realize. You cannot build disciplined habits in an environment filled with distraction, negativity, or temptation. It is difficult to grow in a space that constantly pulls you backward. People attempt to change themselves while keeping the same routines, influences, and surroundings. They seek progress without removing the obstacles that consistently derail them. Environment silently shapes behavior every day. And when it is misaligned with the goal, even the strongest intention struggles to survive. Ultimately, goals do not fail because people lack intelligence, ability, or opportunity. They fail because dreams are treated as emotional wishes instead of structured commitments. They fail because motivation is mistaken for discipline, excitement is mistaken for progress, and desire is mistaken for action. The gap between success and failure is often not talent or luck. It is clarity, structure, patience, and consistency. When people begin to define their goals clearly, break them into daily actions, create systems that support progress, stay patient through slow beginnings, align identity with intention, and build discipline strong enough to outlast motivation, they discover that the goals they once believed were impossible were always within reach. They simply required a clearer path, a stronger foundation, and a commitment that lived beyond emotion. Many people fail at their goals not because they lack ambition, intelligence, or opportunity, but because the goals they are chasing do not truly belong to them. Instead of pursuing dreams that reflect their own values, passions, and identity, they chase goals shaped by society, cultural expectations, family pressure, comparison, or what they see on social media. They imitate what others celebrate rather than listening to what their inner voice desires. A goal that is borrowed rather than chosen may look appealing on the surface, but over time it becomes heavy, exhausting, and emotionally draining because it does not align with who they really are. What begins as inspiration eventually turns into resistance, and every step toward that goal feels like walking against their own nature. When a goal lacks alignment with identity, the mind treats it as an obligation rather than a mission. Instead of feeling driven by purpose, a person feels trapped by expectation. They chase careers they do not enjoy, lifestyles they do not relate to, habits they cannot emotionally sustain, and success standards that do not reflect their values. They wake up wondering why they feel unfulfilled even when they appear to be moving forward. Progress without alignment does not create happiness. It creates internal conflict. The greater the gap between who a person truly is and the goal they are pursuing, the more resistance they will experience along the journey. The human mind naturally resists goals that contradict self-image. When someone still sees themselves as undisciplined, unlucky, incapable, or unworthy, the subconscious mind quietly interferes with progress. They may say they want success, but deep inside, they do not believe they belong there. They take small steps forward, then unconsciously pull themselves backward. They procrastinate, self-sabotage, or quit just before breakthroughs happen, not because they are lazy, but because their identity does not yet match the life they are trying to build. Change on the outside cannot last when the change on the inside has not yet taken place. People often try to transform their actions without transforming their beliefs. They set goals, build plans, and create routines, but they forget to address the internal narrative that shapes every decision they make. If someone grows up believing that success is rare, that opportunities are meant for others, or that failure defines them, those beliefs become emotional barriers. They may start new habits, but their old mindset constantly drags them back to familiar patterns. They repeat the same cycles year after year, not because they lack desire to improve, but because they are trapped inside a self-concept that no longer serves them. Identity is powerful because it determines what feels natural. A person who believes, "I am disciplined," does not force themselves to act responsibly. It feels normal. A person who believes, "I am inconsistent," will struggle no matter how motivated they feel because inconsistency feels familiar and safe. The strongest goals are those that grow from identity rather than conflict with it. When someone truly sees themselves as capable, worthy, and responsible for their life, commitment feels less like effort and more like expression of who they are becoming. Environment plays an equally powerful role in determining whether goals succeed or fail. You cannot grow in a space that pulls you backward every day. It is difficult to stay focused in an environment surrounded by negativity, doubt, distraction, or people who do not support ambition. Many people underestimate how deeply environment influences mindset. The people around us shape what we consider normal. If someone is surrounded by peers who avoid effort, dismiss dreams, or ridicule personal growth, they will eventually shrink their goals just to feel accepted. A supportive environment does not mean comfort. It means alignment. It means being in places where growth is encouraged, where effort is respected, and where progress is celebrated. It means creating distance from influences that drain energy, weaken discipline, and reduce confidence. Yet many people expect extraordinary results while keeping the same limiting surroundings. They want transformation, but continue to live inside environments built for stagnation. They hope their willpower will overpower habit, routine, and social pressure. But in the long run, environment always shapes behavior. People also fail because they attempt to build a new future while still living inside an old lifestyle. They speak of change, but their daily routines reflect their past rather than their vision. They spend time in the same conversations, the same distractions, the same unproductive spaces, and expect different outcomes. Growth requires more than desire. It requires restructuring the world one lives in. When someone tries to hold on to every comfort while reaching for evolution, they stretch themselves in two directions, and eventually the desire for comfort wins. A misaligned environment drains emotional energy. Even when a person has a strong goal, every day becomes a mental battle. They are forced to constantly resist temptation, noise, discouragement, or negative influence. Over time, their self-control weakens, not because they lack discipline, but because no one can fight their surroundings forever. Willpower was never meant to be a permanent defense system. Habits and environments exist so that discipline becomes automatic rather than exhausting. Another reason many people fail at their goals is because they adopt ambitions that look impressive to others rather than meaningful to themselves. They want recognition, validation, status, or approval more than fulfillment. They measure success by external standards, titles, numbers, likes, or comparisons, and eventually discover that achieving these things does not make them feel complete. When progress does not feed the soul, motivation fades quickly. The heart disengages even if the mind continues to push forward. It becomes difficult to stay committed to a destination that does not emotionally resonate. True alignment means understanding what matters deeply on a personal level. It means asking difficult questions such as, who am I becoming? What kind of life feels authentic to me? What values do I want my actions to represent? Many people skip these questions because they are eager to chase visible success. But without clarity of identity, every goal becomes another form of escape, an attempt to outrun insecurity rather than cultivate growth. Mindset also determines whether a goal thrives or collapses. A fixed mindset sees ability as limited and effort as threatening. A growth mindset sees effort as a path to mastery and failure as feedback. When someone carries a negative or rigid mindset, every obstacle feels like proof that they are incapable. They interpret challenges as personal attacks rather than natural parts of the journey. As a result, they withdraw at the first sign of difficulty. But when mindset is grounded in resilience and self-belief, obstacles become lessons instead of excuses. Many people try to plant seeds of progress in soil that has not been prepared. They attempt to build confidence on a foundation of self-doubt. They expect consistency while still identifying as inconsistent. They pursue success in environments that reward complacency. This misalignment eventually creates emotional exhaustion. The journey feels heavy, progress feels forced, and every step forward requires intense effort because the inner world does not support the direction of the outer pursuit. When identity aligns with the goal, effort begins to feel natural. When environment aligns with growth, discipline becomes easier. When mindset aligns with possibility, persistence becomes instinctive. The most successful people are not always the most talented, they are the most aligned. They choose goals that reflect who they are becoming instead of who others expect them to be. They redesign their environment so that good choices become automatic rather than difficult. They reshape their mindset so that every challenge strengthens rather than weakens their determination. Failure often teaches one powerful truth. No goal can survive long term if it does not resonate with identity, support from environment, and belief from mindset. Lasting success begins when a person stops imitating the dreams of others and starts honoring the quiet calling within themselves. It begins when they evolve the way they see themselves, surround their life with influences that support growth, and build a mindset capable of carrying them through uncertainty. In the end, most goals do not fail because they are unreachable. They fail because they are misaligned, externally adopted, or internally resisted. But when alignment is restored, when the goal reflects authentic identity, when the environment nurtures progress, and when the mindset believes in possibility, effort becomes purposeful, progress becomes sustainable, and success becomes a natural extension of who a person at their core is meant to be.